What's up, guys? Keyshawn Lucia here, back at you with another part 2 of Oten Universe video. Now, before we get this video started, I want to make sure to let y'all know with these two announcements, and that's pretty much going to be it. The first announcement is, if y'all haven't saw my video of the broadcast, I have pretty much talked about putting the new parts, adding parts to the videos I already did, and these are going to be these two videos for today. What if Deku was in the Black Ops and something else. But other than that, that's pretty much the first announcement. The second announcement is I'm going to be going back on broadcast on my PS4, and I will be broadcasting and playing video games and talk to you guys about what ifs and stuff, and also about hiring some of y'all subscribers to help me out make my channel a little bit better with background music, maybe a little bit with artwork and something like that. If you want to get spicy, and other than that, that pretty much might be it. Yeah, that pretty much it. I think you. Let's get going. Now, let's get to the recap. Where we last left off, pretty much Deku won the sports festival, pretty much helping Todoroki unlock his fire quirk, saying it's not his father's and it's pretty much his, which he pretty much listened to by heart and used his fire quirk and still lost, but know now that it's not really his father quirk and it's his quirk, which Deku won that and got the love by the people and stuff. Now, the second recap is pretty much Fibria, if I'm correct. His you could say his lover that he got pregnant, pretty much was alive and pretty much explained how she survived and came to America and stuff, which a little bit suspicious, but still came to see his daughter and her lover. Yeah, sorry, her lover and her daughter. Now, the last recap is pretty much how Deku went to a banquet, which his father, or the president, pretty much announced that Deku is his secret son, that he pretty much having to take care and he want to make things right. Which everybody now know, including the live attention of the country, knows that Deku is the secret son and a soldier. Which everybody is pretty much asking questions, which Deku is pretty much in a drag. But nonetheless, continue. That's pretty much it of the recap. Let's get to part 5. How can I say? Now, we're starting with Deku pretty much at pretty much at home, pretty much waking up in bed. Why his daughter is pretty much no, why Phibia is pretty much sleeping beside him, and the daughter's in the middle, pretty much waking up and pretty much getting dressed and stuff, and going downstairs and about to head into the limo, which he leaves a note for Ophelia saying that he already made them some breakfast and stuff, and he's gonna be heading to the field camp, the military camp, or the field camp, because it's the weekend. Now, pretty much Deku head to the military camp the weekend and talking to pretty much sees Stain and pretty much says, "Hey Stain," which Stain pretty much says, "Oh hey Deku," which they pretty much sit down and talk. Now, Dex, Dex, Ace, and Jane, if I'm correct, pretty much is all pretty much doing their tasks and stuff and training. But they also is easy listening in because they want to know what their their head commander is talking about with, you could say, with the new one, with the Ricky. Now, Deku's pretty much talking to Stain and saying, "So what did you get?" Which Stain begins to talk about. Says, "Well, there's a we have a report by the general saying that there's intel of there's a hostage situation at Russia, which we're supposed to intervene, but we're not supposed to be showing ourselves, but be stealth to pretty much take the hostages and bring them and pretty much rescue them." Which Deku says, "Okay, what's the next one?" And he pretty much and Stain pretty much talk about the second one, saying that there's a VIP at sorry, there's a VIP pretty much at Canadian. Yeah, there's a Yeah, pretty much VIP at Canada, which we're supposed to do an escort to make sure he's safe. Which Deku says, all right, that doesn't seem too bad. Which Stain says, but there's a catch. There's assassin's headman trying to assassinate him. Which Deku says, of course, it gotta be something like that. All right, well, we best be going then. Which Stain says, well, he says we can go wherever we want to, but I think we should go now. Which Deku says, all right. Now this is where he calls his task force unit and it begins to put on the exosuits and begins to start going. Now they're going to Russia to get the rescue, which they get on the invisible jet. Not well, the jet that can turn it into visible. That has stuff on. You could say it's a high technology jet. Now, as they're going there, this is where they initiate and starts to fly off. It begins to hover. Well, start going down, but not using no parachute, but the hover, and they begin to land on the ground. Now, this is where they all in stealth mode and pretty much going very quietly and stuff and taking out guards one out. One one at you could say one at a time, pretty much shooting them in the head, self kids synchronizing as stuff as one because they pretty much train themselves into one unit when it's at stealth missions. Now, of course, this is where they pretty much seize the hostages and they rescue them and stuff and pretty much start executing. I mean, not executing, but escorting them and stuff and getting them out of there. Now, after they do that, they pretty much go back to I forgot what place China, Japan, and pretty much drop them off at the rescue system. Which the general says, "Good job, Deku. I could never, you never let, you never let me down. You're the best soldiers. You got the best soldiers that money can offer, or the world can offer." Which Deku says, "Yeah, I know you're just trying to sugar me up." Which the general says, "No, Deku, I'm not. You're actually the first of the soldiers that can actually get anything done without failure." Which Deku takes that and listens to that. Now, pretty much they do the second mission, and that pretty much is pretty much easy. No assassinations or anything. Pretty much what I had to breathe. Now, this is where the weekend's over, and Deku pretty much heads back to school. Now, as he's heading back, he pretty much has to go in the limo because pretty much girls and people walk up to him and ask for favors and stuff, or pretty much asking for money and stuff because they know Deku is pretty much the president's son now, and they think if they get to him, they can get special treatment, which they can't. And he has some like high rich families. Like we're gonna say there's like a little bit still noblemen, still in the titles and stuff. They they offer up their daughters in marriage and stuff. And even when Deku goes to school, some of his friends, like Flappy, has like a cooking thing, like if I'm correct, and also Uraraka's father. Yeah, they is also off like they went to the school and offer up their daughter's hand in marriage for so Deku can marry them. Because we're gonna say when you're a son of a president, we're gonna say it's still like kings and stuff a little bit in the age of the new era. As if you're the president, you can live long as a president until you die or you give up your seat. As you can still become president, you can still become president as long as you don't die. Like if you die, your sons will take over. As not as a kid can be a president, as if the son is, let's say, hmm, let's say 18, 17 or 16. But yeah, that's why if you're the president's son, you have to have high education and stuff and learning. Because if the father dies, the next son will take over and become the president and have to, rule over all Japan and stuff, you could say. Which I know this logic sounds pretty crazy, but we're going to say it like that. So that's why if like the president die or anything happens to the president, the son would take over. So since Deku is, let's say, technically a little like much older than the other sons, if the president dies, Deku will become the new president of Japan. So that's why everybody's offering up their hand and stuff and all that stuff. to Deku. But also the other sons are getting offered up hands by daughters. Now, this is where Deku is, of course, like ignoring and not saying anything or accepting any proposal, saying no, I'm not gonna do that. Your daughter has a saying in this and stuff, and they're pretty much saying, oh, don't be silly. Like she doesn't have a saying in this. Like you have the power to, choose who you want to choose. Now, of course, the school pretty much prohibits of parents coming to school and offering up their daughters in hand because they don't do that, and it would never happen. So yeah, pretty much Deku takes a seat and taking a big sigh, saying, which Uraka and Flappy saying, having a tough time, which Deku says, yeah, this I gotta take a limousine every time, and I can't really go and do what I want, which all of them is pretty much, saying we feel so bad for him, which Deku is saying, I mean, it beats walking, but still. Now, this is where Razorhead is pretty much saying, alright, everybody, did everybody get their stuff packed today? Today is the camping trip. We're going to camping, which everybody decided and saying, yeah, of course, and stuff. And everybody's, excited for the camping trip and all that stuff. Now, this is where everybody's hopping on the bus and stuff, got all their bags and packed, which Deku is pretty much, happy, and hops on the bus. Now, this is where, of course, Deku is going. It's going on a bus, and pretty much he gets we're gonna say a tele, well, a telephone or a message in the brain where they have. So his task force unit has a text message in the brain where they text each other by just cool thing, or you could say voice chat in the brain. Well, yeah, they have it installed in their skeletal system as they could talk to each other at far distances, like at Russia or let's say at far distances, because we're gonna say Japan is far in technology at this time. Now, this is where his team is talking to him, saying, Deku, so are you gonna be at this camping trip for how long? Which Deku says, I can just, we have the teleporter where I can just teleport back and forth, just in case. Which, Juggernaut is saying, yeah, we know that, but do you need us to be extra backup just in case? Which Deku says, you don't have to call me sir, but no, everything be fine. I can handle it. Which pretty much Juggernaut saying all right, and Ace, he's pretty much, I think it was a her or he, I forgot, but Ace is pretty much saying, well, our task is supposed to do. We're supposed to capture the villain all for one. Which Deku says, I know. If he comes, I will handle it. But if I can't handle it, I will. Y'all know what to do, and we'll take him down. Which I should pretty much tell. 20 minutes later. Yeah, I mean, no, 20 minutes earlier. Pretty much as Deku was in the classroom, he had to use the restroom, and he pretty much gets a call from the president and from the government for a certain talk, which it shows a hologram, and it begins to start talking to Deku, which Deku says, Mr. President, government, I mean, government, or, yeah, you could say that, or the sergeant, yeah, which, they pretty much says Deku at East Soldier, which the president does a little, oh, come on, you know what I want. What you need, Dad, which the president begins to say, oh, that's my boy, which Deku says, just get off with the mission, which, the government, you could say the higher up begins to start a little bit laughing, but begins to say, well, your next assignment is pretty much simple. You need to capture the villain, the most powerful villain alive, all for one, which Deku's saying him, which you need him for, which they're pretty much saying, well, his quirk, if we can get his quirk and maintain it, we might can upgrade the exosuits, and we might can get something new for a new experiment, which Deku says, all right, without no question asked, and begins to accept the terms and begins to head back to class. Now, back to the present, pretty much pretty much Deku hopping off the bus and stuff and walking forward, and they begin to look around saying this is no camping place, which they begin to see two or three other instructors and saying hello, welcome to the camping trip, which Deku realizes it's a trap, and he begins to put on his exosuit, and they pretty much destroy the thing, and everybody falls down, while Deku is pretty much going all the way down. Now, this is where Deku begins to say everybody stay on their guard, which Deku has influences on the whole class because he's the leader of the class. And he also tells everybody to be on their guard and get prepared, which everybody does. And this is where the monster comes out, and Deku begins to say now, and he pulls out a grenade launcher. Yeah. Over the grenade launcher with a 1-2 pin, fires at one of the monsters, blowing off one of the monsters' leg. Wow. Bakugo runs in, jumps, and he does a backflip. And he does his kick down on the monster head, pretty much blowing off the monster head, which the monster falls down dead. This is where Flappy pretty much she used her tongue to grab the tree and hops on the tree, and while the monster's trying to slam down on Flappy, she jumps up, which this is where Uraraka touches the monster and makes him levitate, and which the monster's trying to grab his balance. This is where, of course, I forgot that other person with his quirk, but he uses his rap quirk and begins to slam the monster down to the ground with Uraraka's combination quirk with the gravity. Now this is where, of course, Todoroki uses his ice to freeze the monster, and we're gonna say Mineta pretty much comes in and throws his sticky balls at the monster's hands, so he can't move or anything. And this is where Todoroki switches and uses the fire and burns the monster to crisp. And pretty much everything else goes as, you could say, somewhat the same. And everybody start hopping out the forest. Now, everybody's hopping out the forest and stuff. Everybody's a little bit tired and stuff, but not too tired like they're out of breath. But they start breathing low and they're saying, they got Deku trained us to be prepared for anything. Which Bakugo was saying, yeah, I thought we was about to die, but clearly we got better. Now, this is where the practitioners are saying, good job, everybody. Y'all managed to survive, and now you got injured or bruised or anything. Which she's pretty much saying, just for that, everybody gets a word. Everybody gets a break. Because after the break, y'all getting back training. Which everybody's saying, which Deku is pretty much not, showing any reaction or anything about it. Which the instructor, she's getting a little bit suspicious why Deku's not showing any emotion or anything about it. Now, after the small break, everybody start doing their training and stuff, training their quirks and all that stuff. Which this is where the proctor begins to ask Deku, so why you didn't decide why everybody else was sighing about the whole workout? Which Deku says, oh, well, I don't know if you heard it, but I'm a soldier, so I've been training my whole life into the military stuff. So this is really not a problem. I actually do enjoy training and stuff. It's good for the body and stuff. Which she's saying, huh, I see. Okay. We'll continue out with your workout. Which she begins to go and check on everybody else. Now, Deku begins to start training and stuff, and as he's training, this is where they pretty much says they got intel where he can be at. Which Deku says, alright, are we gonna go there? Which one of his units, one of his squad units says, no, not yet. We have to get the word. Which Deku says, alright. Now, after, we're gonna say maybe like a couple of days now, this is where the villains start to initiate their attack, and they begin to start attacking, and everything just goes out to hell. Now, this is where Deku is looking for the kid, and he can't find him. It begins to say, shit, where can he be? And he starts to go. Because the kid reminds him of his daughter, and he'll do anything to protect his daughter. Now, he started looking around and stuff, and trying to find where he's at. Now, as he's going, this is where the kid's about to get crushed by that Mustard Mutation villain. I forgot his name. So, pretty much starts to go down and trying to attack the kid, which Deku pretty much comes in and punches him. You could say punches him in the gut and says, "What the 100% the sword smash," which Deku can handle it because, like I said, the regeneration. So his arm can regenerate much quicker, and it keeps evolving due to the one for all quirk, or yeah, the one for all quirk. So pretty much he sends him flying into a wall and asks if he's alright, which he says yeah. Now this is where the articulation muscle comes out and says, "Huh, you punch pretty hard, but not hard enough." Which Deku begins, to get up and says, "Well, no." Which the guy begins to get up and punch Deku down to the ground. This is where Deku pretty much has his half his exosuit on. It begins to say, "Target initiate," and his exosuit has a self-defense mechanism as it will eliminate anything if a person's trying to kill Deku. And Deku is the only unique person who has that defense mechanism because he's the first prototype soldier, and his armor is kind of as a self knowledge, so it's self taught. It teaches itself how to defend itself, how to get stronger, how to evolve, and how to adapt in certain situations. No other exosuit has that but Deku's, and it's a self intelligence. So I should have told you that it talks to Deku sometimes as an intelligent being, kind of like yeah, talks to himself, talks to him and tell him what to do sometimes and also how to survive. So yeah, pretty much as Deku's getting slammed to the ground, Deku's pretty much telling the kid to back up, and the kid's backing up and stuff and crying and stuff, and crying out for Deku to get up and stuff. While this is why Deku suit is pretty much activating much faster and saying defense mechanism activate, killing initiate, and begins to appear shooting out spikes or needles, these rare poisonous needles, which the guy backs up and he gets hit by one, but he pretty much says, "Huh, that's pretty much a weak mechanism," which Deku begins to start to heal up and stuff, and his bones and everything is healing up much quicker, like really fast in a snap, as everything's healing up. So he's not flinched by it. Now this is where Deku pulls out a combat knife and pretty much says, "I'm not even going to use my quirk. I'm just going to defeat you with the combat knife," which his suit is pretty much saying, "Are you sure about that?" Which Deku says, "Yeah." Which Deku's suit says, "Alright, enhancing visible ability," and begins to start charging at the villain. Now, this is where the villain throws a punch, which Deku pretty much jumps in. You think he does a one slice cut, but he does multiple slashes, a little bit more multiple slashes, and starts cutting deep in the guy, which the guy's saying, "What the hell? How did he?" And which one of his fingers is coming off and saying, "What?" Now this is where Deku kicks him in the face and begins to slash his legs and does multiple slashes at his legs, cutting the important parts of the legs, like let's say the strings and stuff, like that's connected and stuff, and he begins to start falling down. Now as he's trying to get up and stuff and use his quirk, he begins to realize his quirk is getting deactivated and saying, What the hell? What did you do?" Which Deku's saying, "You remember that weak ass mechanism you said it was? Yeah, that neutralized your quirk, as it stops you from using your quirk anymore that you should be using." And he begins to say, "What? How's that even possible? You can't." And he begins to try to get up, but he falls down and pretty much passes out due to blood loss. Now, this is where Deku knees down and asks if he's alright, which he's pretty much crying, saying, "This is all my fault. I should not ran, that you wouldn't have to fight," which Deku says, "It's alright. Hey, fist pump." Which, of course, the kid gives him a fist bump and begins to smile, and Deku takes him back to his grandma, and Deku begins to go help out the rest. Now, as he's going to help out the rest, this is where he sees everybody's pretty much, holding off their own, but at the same time still having the struggle. Now, with the shadow one, with his shadow quirk, his shadow quirk doesn't go out of hand. He controlled it more due to Deku's training, so he's more like kicking villain's ass and controlling it more. Now, as that is happening, this is where the two students get captured, but one student get captured, it's Bakugo. With Deku was pretty much pissed off, saying, "Damn it! If only I knew." Which everybody's trying to say, "Don't blame yourself. We can go rescue him." Stuff. Now back at school, everybody's pretty much is talking to Razorhead stuff, and everybody's at the infirmary. Some is healing up and all that, and pretty much Deku's saying, "I'm gonna go rescue him if it if it if it like my life depends on it." Which Razorhead is saying, "I know you're strong, Deku, but you can't just do it by yourself." Which Deku says, "I'm not gonna do it by myself. I'm gonna do it with my team." Which uh, Razorhead said, "What do you mean, team?" Which this is where his team appears, his task force unit. And he says, "This is my squad, task force 0." Which Razorhead says, "This is your task force." Now this is where the students are also looking and sees that Deku has a unit and pretty much says, "Who's these people?" Which Deku pretty much spills a little bit of the beans, but not all of it, saying that this is his task force and he is the higher. You could say he's a higher up, as he's a commander and he commands these. Which Ace and they begins to introduce themselves and stuff, and the students are talking to him and all that. Now this is where, of course, Razorhead is saying, "Okay, so what you gonna do? Rescue Bakugo and make sure everybody be safe." Which this is where the Razorhead says, "All right, but I will inform All Might about this." Which Deku says, "Go ahead," and they begins to start going. Now, as they're getting ready to go, this is where, as they're doing that, this is where they getting their suits and stuff and ready and getting all this stuff prepared. Now, as they're getting their stuff prepared, this is where, of course, we're gonna say Deku is getting his stuff ready and all that. It begins to go home and tells he'd be out in a minute. It begins to tell his daughter Amphibia that he's going to be going to rescue his friend, which pretty much his daughter tells him to be safe, and Amphibia tells him to be safe too, which Deku says he will. It begins to start going. Now, as he start going, this is where, of course, a couple of heroes start joining in too because they got permission to go help. And All Might says, "Are you ready, Deku?" Which Deku says, "Yeah, he's ready." It begins to start going. Now, as they start going to the location where the villains are holding them at, only no students, like some students, kind of went rogue and went there too. Secretly, it begins to try to look for Bakugo. Now, as that happening, Deku and the heroes begins to start fighting villains and stuff and all that to try to get Bakugo back. All that stuff. Now, this is where Deku goes ahead and looks for Bakugo and stuff, and this is where he meets Shigaraki again. Which this is where Shigaraki is saying, "Huh, look like we meet again." Which Deku's saying, "I got no time for you." Which Shigaraki says, "Huh, well, you're gonna make time." It begins to charge at, not charge at Deku. It begins to send one of the Nobles at Deku, which Deku pretty much dodges the Noble hit and shoots the Noble in the head. It begins to point at Shigaraki, which Shigaraki begins to dodge the bullets. And he begins to use his quirk to kind of as his finish into a certain different way, and begins to send a Nomu out, which Deku pretty much gets out of shotgun and shoots the other Nomu too. And this is where Shigaraki is running out of options, and Deku pretty much comes in his face and headbutts Shigaraki, pretty much knocking him out. It begins to head forward. Now, as he's going forward, this is where he sees where Bakugo's at and pretty much gets him out. Which Bakugo is saying, "Took you long enough, nerd." Which Deku begins to smile and says, yeah. Now, as Deku pretty much getting Bakugo, he begins to take, pretty much get out and sees the fight with All Might and One for All. One for All? Yeah. Or All for One. All for One? Yeah, All for One. Sorry. All for One. Sorry. Having the fight with All for One. Pretty much as the fight happening, pretty much All Might is pretty much getting out, getting a little bit outmatched and stuff because we're gonna say due to the injury. I don't know if I cured the injury or not. I kind of forgot, but we're gonna say he does still have the injury, but it's not as it turns him back to buff Small Might form, but pretty much it just wears him down as he gets wear down and he begins to start to fall a little bit, but not debuff, you could say. Now, All Might's pretty much having to struggle with stuff and pretty much losing breath and stuff and breathing, holding on to his side and saying, and his side begins to breathe. Now, as that's happening, All For One begins to start laughing, saying, "What's wrong, All Might? Having a problem breathing? Let me help you with that." And begins to use his quirk and send All Might flying. This is where Deku says, "Mentor," and begins to appear and pretty much punches All For One in the stomach and sends him flying. Now, this is where he runs to All Might, asks if he's alright, which All Might saying, "Yeah, just need a little air." It pretty much lifts up All Might's shirt and sees the wound, and pretty much says, "You're gonna have to stand still and let my antibiotics heal you while I deal with him." Which All Might says, "Don't be foolish, kid." Which Deku says, "Huh, I got this," and begins to smile and gets up. Now, as the robots are healing All Might and fixing up the room the best way they can and trying to, you could make it better, Deku begins to start walking forward. It pretty much puts on his exosuit and pretty much says, "All right, let's get it." Which, All For One saying, "That was quite a punch, kid, but you won't get a second one." And begins to start charging at Deku. Now, Deku pretty much is dodging All For One's attack, and pretty much pulls out a gun and shoots All For One's arm, which All For One's trying to heal, but realizes he can't heal the wound because the bullet is cauterized with a neuralizing bullet, which it neuralizes the quirk, so he can't really heal himself. So Deku shoots like two more at his leg and other arm, and he begins to fall down, which his quirk is slowly fading away, you could say, at time, which this is where he says, "How come I can't heal? And why is my quirk slowly falling away?" Now this is where he's about to, you could say, try to figure out. Deku runs in and knees him in the face, sending him flying into the wall again. Well, into a wall, making a crater. Now, All For One's trying to think of a situation to get out, which Deku pretty much knees him in the face again and begins to start punching him rapidly and pretty much grabs his leg and slams him to the ground like a couple of times and sends him flying into another wall. Now, this is where, of course, he's coughing up blood and saying, "I won't be defeated," and use a bit of his strength to stab Deku in the arm with his quirk. Actually, not in the arm, but in the stomach. Which Deku gets stabbed, which All Might says, "No!" And everybody's saying, "Oh my god, no," and stuff. We're all saying that they know it's Deku. Now, this is where Deku, of course, breaks it, and pretty much pulls it out and stabs All For One with it, which he pretty much coughs up blood, saying, "Oh, what? How did you?" Which Deku says, "Healing factor. Such a shame, right?" Which All For One saying, "Damn, I've been outbeat." Now, of course, this is where the smoke comes in, and we're gonna say some smokes comes in, and this is where they begin to take All For One and pretty much, wrap it and take him away so they can get his quirk and stuff. Now, as to taking this quirk away, Deku pretty much lays on the ground to pretend like he's knocked out. And everybody's trying to figure out what the hell happened. Sorry about that. Let's continue. But pretty much, yeah. Everybody runs up to Deku and asks if he's alright, which his seven comes out and says, "Yeah, where'd he go?" Which he's, playing dumb, but he knows what they which they're pretty much saying they don't know, but they're glad that he's alright. Now, anyway, All Might pretty much lift up his fist, and everybody does it too. It says, "Yeah!" And Deku does it too, which, they cheering for Deku and All Might, that, pretty much defeated the number one villain, All For One. And not Todoroki, Shigaraki's pretty much pissed off and trying to say, what did they do? Where did he go? What happened to him? What happened to my master? And pretty much, he has to go into hiding, which, his squad too goes into hiding. And he's very much pissed off and furious of what happened to him and all that. Now, as that is happening, Deku pretty much, get recognition for his heroism and gets a medal and all that. And also, yeah, pretty much gets a medal. And, everybody's cheering for him and stuff. And Deku pretty much get the recognition as the first ever young hero who ever defeated the number one villain, the recognition. Now, they're pretty much throwing a party and stuff, and Deku's pretty much excited and all that stuff. And, they're talking. They're pretty much, excited that that Deku defeated him. And everybody's talking stuff. And of course, this is where the richest and richest and not so rich people, the average, comes in and begins to doing the offering, the hand in marriage to Deku, and Deku's trying to really not do that, and gets a call from his old time friend, or you could say his childhood friend. I forgot her name, but pretty much she says that it's ready, which he pretty much says, all right, and begins to start saying that everybody can still party. He has to go somewhere, so he might not come back and stuff. Which everybody's saying, oh, but they're saying, all right, well, they're gonna still keep the party alive. Now, as that's happening, Deku goes to the lab facility with his unit, which this is where, of course, Deku goes in. Actually, no, he goes there by himself and he begins to say, all right, what we got here, which they begin to say, well, we need you to go in the tube and we're gonna knock you out and stuff and do the upgrades, which Deku says, all right. It begins to, go in the tube and pass, get knocked out and stuff. Now, this is where they start transferring the quirk, but they merge the quirk All For One and One For All together into one, as one gives a buff and one takes quirks. You could say takes quirks and merge them together and make them brand new and stuff, or like make something as new or make something powerful, or can take and give. You could say. Now, as that happening, Deku pretty much is getting the upgrades and stuff, and his suit gets an upgrade as well, as it got some new abilities. Now, I'll tell the abilities at part 6, you could say. Now, Deku pretty much wakes up in the infirmary, and he begins to see his old friend, and she pretty much says, hey, Deku. Which Deku says, hey, and begins to start smiling. Now, this is where she pretty much says the experiment was a success. You pretty much have a new quirk merged together with that quirk. And Deku pretty much says, you're talking about the All For One quirk, which she's pretty much saying, yeah. Surprisingly, that his quirk is a different quirk that can take quirks away or give quirks, and he can merge them together and stuff and make something unique. Which Deku is saying, I see. Now, this is where Deku begins to get up, but he falls down and scrape himself, and she pretty much says, oh, let me heal you. And we're going to say she has a healing quirk. But Deku pretty much begins to heal himself much quicker, which he says, I'm fine, which she was saying. She begins to look and says, remarkable, your healing regen is instant, so if you do get scraped or stabbed, you can heal up in an instant. Which Deku says, I see. Now, of course, this is where Deku begins to head back home, where we're gonna say where the party was at, and his home is a little bit different. It's been upgraded to be a little bit bigger, but he goes back home and sees that some people is on the ground and stuff, and pretty much knocked out. Which There's some people on the couch, which he's saying, look like this was a good party. And some of the people who was on like the person who's on the couch knocked out is Bakugo, pretty much knocked out, and Mineta's pretty much on the floor with some girl on laying on her boobs, saying heh, heh, boobies and stuff. Which Deku's saying, you know, I knew this would come, but I never thought it would be sooner. And begins to just start going upstairs. Now, as he's going upstairs, he begins to look around, and he sees his bed, and he pretty much sees, sees his bed. And he goes in bed and just takes a sleep and goes to sleep and said he'd worry about this tomorrow. Now, this is part 5 of What If Deku was in the Black Ops. If y'all like, leave a like, comment down below, and do a lot of stuff. I'm Keyshawn Chia. Thanks for watching. And also, like I said, don't forget about those. Don't forget about the broadcast. But other than that, peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.